affordable housing for the elderly and housing for the homeless. Who brings those two concepts to life? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Fox 43 studio. We're focused on affordable housing, and we're visiting with David Douglas, the president of the Douglas Company. Good morning, David.
Hey, Greg. Good morning.
Thanks so much for coming in. It's so exciting to think, obviously, you were with us, golly, 14 or 15 months ago back here at the studio, also focused on affordable housing, but that was before Morris Manor had opened, and obviously before the Alliance Inn had opened. It was after Swans Gate, but a lot going on in Horry County and throughout the area.
Horry County is a booming area. Needs housing, so we're glad to provide.
And it needs a lot of affordable housing.
It does indeed, and that's what we do, affordable housing.
Do you all do anything other than, I mean, do you ever do any other projects?
We have Seagate Village here in Myrtle Beach, which is the old Myrtle Beach Air Force Base, is one of our properties. And we're in the process of taking it into condominiums and selling it. It's also affordable, though. It's probably one of the more affordable housing products in Horry County, for sale product, and doing very well. We've sold half the 800 units in 24 months.
Is that right?
Right.
Oh, Lord, that must be one of the fastest selling projects in the area.
Probably is the fastest selling property in the area. But it's nice, and it's unique, and it's one of a kind, and it is affordable, and it's 300 yards off the beach.
That it is. 16 miles of sidewalks. I know it very well. 8 miles one way and 8 another. So
I think you might live there, do you?
I know it very well. That's right. I'm a renter out there. Hopefully someday.
Soon to be an owner.
That's right. Hopefully someday I can work out a deal. The aspect, of course, of the Douglas Company being headquartered in the county is relatively new, David. Y'all have been headquartered in Aynor for how long?
7 years. My wife is from Gallants Ferry, and I'm from Greenville, and we moved down 7 years ago. She wanted to be with her mother and father. Her dad passed away recently, John Monroe Holiday. But we enjoy it. We live at Gallants Ferry. My office is in Aynor, which is the closest place you can get a T1 connection for your computers.
Right.
And we're very happy with it. I like Horry County. I like the beach. The people are great. We're delighted we're here.
Where did you and your wife meet? Did y'all meet down here or meet in the upstate?
Met in the upstate, met in Greenville, and some 25 years ago. I have 3 children there. One of them at USC as a junior, one of them at College of Charleston, daughters, and then a son, 16, at home, going to PD Academy.
Over in Marion?
Yes, that's correct.
That's great. Wow. Did the other 2 go to PD Academy as well?
They did.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So close to home. My God, Gallants Ferry is actually perfectly suited for that, for your office and for their school.
It works great. We're very fortunate.
It really does. Well, you know, that opportunity of her being closer to her parents and you being able to move your business. Now, your business is all over. I mean, it's not only surely here in the Low Country, but in the upstate and in other states even. Well,
we're building in Northern Virginia, Maryland, Tennessee, North Carolina, a number of properties in South Carolina. So we're building all over the southeast.
Oftentimes, David, when you talk about building, there's a lot of restoration going in place, and where you're taking over components like, obviously, we want to focus on the Morris Manor there in Aynor.
Let me tell you about that.
Yeah, please.
Morris Manor was named after a fellow by the name of Pat Morris, who was the superintendent or the principal for the Aynor Elementary School for some 40-odd years. He's since deceased. But the school has been abandoned now for approximately 8 or 9 years. It was in a state of deterioration. And we've done what we call an adaptive reuse. Adaptive reuse has taken a hospital, a library, or a school, any type of building, and changing it into something else. And we've taken that old school and renovated it. It's about a $2.5 million property. It's actually owned by the city of Aynor, as well as Grand Strand Housing, 2 nonprofits. And it consists of 22 units. It's housing for the elderly. It's in like new condition. We kept all the hardwood floors, 12-foot ceilings. It has brand new heat pumps and energy efficient, very inexpensive rent, $350 a month.
$350 a month?
That's it.
Oh, Lord.
But it's affordable housing for the elderly in Aynor off Highway 319. It's a pretty property, and we're hopeful that we can get it rented up before the end of the year, if not sooner. 11 of the 22 are currently rented. But it's pretty nice facility, and the town of Aynor is very, very proud of it. It's a nice asset to the community.
You possibly have folks leaving other areas to move over there. I mean, there's an opportunities for folks within the PD or southeastern North Carolina to move down there.
Loris, Marion, Mullins, some from the beach. Ainer's only a community of maybe 500 people, so we knew it would be a challenge, so to speak, to build a new multifamily in Ainer. But it's nice, and it's a one-of-a-kind property, and if somebody wants to have a secure, lovely place to live for a very affordable rent, that's the place to be. And Ainer's a nice little community. It's up and coming place.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think I saw that the mayor there in Ainer, John Dawsey, has been instrumental in helping make Morris Manor happen.
We call him Mr. Clemson, but he's an amazing guy, and he really is very vibrant, enthusiastic, real engine of growth over there.
Mm-hmm. David, now, did you study housing in college? Was this a degree you could get, or is this something you'd always thought about as a kid? Did you know you wanted to get involved in helping refurbish older facilities, or how did this happen? Lay that out for us.
It was a string of circumstances. I majored in business in college. But my dad was a home builder, and he died in July 8th, 1972, which was a month after I graduated from college. And I had planned to go on into graduate school. But he had houses that were underway. He was on the tail end of a very successful high-end subdivision. And it was at a time in 72 when a fool could have made money. So I started out finishing up with his properties, and then became a home builder, made some money, and said, well, heck, I can do this. In 1979, the interest rates went to 21%. South Carolina had a usury law of 12%. The home building industry shut down. And at that time, a group of folks had optioned a piece of property from us in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. And then they went under. They went broke. And I said, well, what were you going to do? And they said, well, we're going to build multifamily housing under the Farmers Home Administration. And I said, well, I'm not sure what that is, but in order to keep my crews busy, then we'll do an apartment complex. And built that first one in 77, 78. And since then built like 40 complexes for the Farmers Home Administration, all in South Carolina. That program went away in the early 90s. And President Reagan had put in a new program where he wanted to put the private sector into the production of affordable housing via the issuance of tax credits. The tax credits are sold, and the money that is raised from the sale is used to pay down the mortgage. It's conventional financing. It's conventionally owned, privately managed. And it's the way all affordable housing is being built in this country now, through the sale of the credits. The credits are actually administered by each state so that there's a local influence. It's done out of Columbia through the South Carolina Housing Finance Agency. They have an annual award of the credits, and they target where they want the housing to be built. And you enter the competition, and if you're successful, then you're awarded the credits, and you get to build a property.
Was that pretty competitive, David?
There were 70-odd applications this year for probably 15 fundings.
Is that right?
Yes, it is super competitive.
Now, are all the folks putting bids in? Are they all within the Palmetto State, or are they from all over the country?
Every state has this program. This is a federal program. It's a permanent. It's a permanent program. It's not something that's going to be here today and gone tomorrow. It does make provision for affordable housing done by the private sector. And so, like I actually own the properties. I'm responsible financially for the property. If something goes wrong, I have to pay the bill. So I'm there. I'm very attentive to it, and it's different than having a government-owned property. Now, these properties are conventionally built. They're very attractive. If you looked at one, you could not tell that it had any facet of affordable housing or low-income housing, which is a word we don't like to use. But they're built nice, and they're built to last. And I'm the general partner of the first one that I ever did in 1978. And since then, we've built probably 80 properties.
Wow, 80.
80.
Golly, David, and those are all, but now you said y'all's expansion's been into Virginia, into Maryland, and North Carolina.
That's correct. We're building some big properties. We just finished a 276-unit apartment community in Woodbridge, Virginia. Built 130 units in Manassas, Virginia. Building 130 units in Lebanon, Tennessee, which is outside of Nashville.
And these are all affordable housing projects.
That's correct. That is correct. Building in Easley, York, Columbia, Lugoff, Charleston, hither and yon. There's a tremendous demand for this.
That's very interesting now. So, but you were getting in competitive bidding in those other states. In Virginia and Maryland, you're going for those same credits.
Same program.
The same credits. And, for instance, in Maryland, there may be 150 folks applying for 30 properties.
It's very competitive in every state.
Mm-hmm.
We're also using tax-exempt bond financing, which is in addition to the credit. So tax-exempt bonds are sold to raise money for mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
And through the credits and through the tax-exempt bonds, you're able to produce housing that is economic.
Right.
I make a living. I'm a for-profit developer, and but yet this is affordable housing, and I make a developer's fee, and I continue to own it and have a portion of the cash flow. As I say, I'm responsible for it financially,
right.
So I make sure it's maintained and taken care of, and I'm very proud of what we do.
I'm sure you've got to be. David, if a viewer was interested in finding affordable housing in their community, wasn't aware of any, was there a number they could call to learn more, or to find out whether it's in Columbia, or even just calling y'all's office? What's y'all's number?
Our number is 843-358-1052.
Okay.
But if one wanted to find out about the housing in this state, they could call the South Carolina Housing Finance Agency. And the phone number there is 803-734-2000 in Columbia.
Yeah, you don't forget that number, 803-734-2000.
That is correct.
Okay, well, we'll keep that in mind. You know, it's so exciting when folks want to learning about, you said the buzzword you wouldn't use, low or moderate income housing, low income housing.
Well, low income housing has a bad connotation. In the Johnson era, when the federal government was putting up big low income housing complexes that were filled with crime and a lot of bad elements, and a lot of things that people think of as public housing, brings crime, prostitution, unwed mothers, bad things. And what we do is try to do something exactly the opposite of it. We're trying to build affordable housing that's safe, decent, sanitary, housing that people will be proud to call their own. People generally don't move out of our housing unless they're moving into buying a house. And so we like to think that we're a stepping stone where they are moving up in the world. But the private ownership is very different than the federal government's ownership, as you might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the hook for something, you're going to either take care of it or it's going to take care of you.
Right. There is still quite a bit of federal-owned housing.
There is old properties that are still up and existent, and they're in the process of starting to demolish most of those properties through the HUD's HOPE program, and putting up new housing. But as far as federal production of housing, that's basically stopped altogether.
There's a group in Durham, Self-Help, that I've heard a lot about. Is that a group you've ever heard anything about?
I have. They're a 501c3 nonprofit. And there's a lot of nonprofit participation in this business. We, on all our properties in Horry County, and there may be 8 of them now, our partner is Grand Strand Housing, which is a nonprofit.
Right.
They provide all kinds of tenant support services, social services. And we like having them as our partner. It helps us politically with the city. It helps us with the tenants. But we work with nonprofits almost on 50% of the properties we do are in partnership with nonprofits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I saw, obviously, you all a couple of weeks ago got the certificate of occupancy for the Alliance Inn there on Mr. Joe White Avenue.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing.
Share with the viewers. We got about 10 minutes. Share with the viewers a little bit about the Alliance Inn.
Alliance Inn is on 10th Avenue. It's across the street from Futrell Park. It is just received its certificates of occupancy within the last 7 or 8 days. It's the first of its kind in the state. It's transitional housing for the homeless. To live at Alliance Inn, you have to be certified as formerly homeless. Now, the tenants that are coming to us are not coming out of the woods, so to speak. They're coming from various and sundry shelters, Street Reach Mission, Citizens Against Spousal Abuse, Promised Land, any number of places where homeless initially come, and almost emergency shelter or whatever. But once they leave the shelter, they come to us, and they're allowed to stay there for 2 years while they integrate back into society. Mm-hmm. Little River Medical Clinic is there, which provides free medical services for the poor. We have a on-site caseworker. We have computer training rooms, back to school, back to work. There are 56 children living in that complex now.
Wow.
It's all 1, 2, and 3 bedroom. You can only stay there, say, 2 years. They do pay rent, although it's a reduced rent. The Myrtle Beach Housing Authority assists us also in that regard. But it's there to transition these people back into society and to give them meaningful jobs and a meaningful life.
How exciting.
Well, they're moving in, and it really put a lump in my throat. These people they come in and they kissing the walls and weeping about being able to live in a property this nice and to be able to get back on their feet. It's heartwarming. Like I said, I'm a for-profit developer, but I get a big kick out of what I do.
You've got to, David. You've got to. And you said this is the first of its kind in the state. It is.
It is. And this is something to be done in Charleston, Columbia, Greenville. It's a very worthwhile use of this program, of these credits. It's difficult because there's so many other sources of money you have to bring to the table. But it's up and it's standing, and we're going to have our grand opening in probably the next 4 weeks once everything settles in. And hopefully folks can come out and see it. And
yeah.
I think they'll be astonished. It's a first-class facility. And also, this is the first time I've done housing for the homeless, and so you have to think about things that are different. For instance, they don't have any furniture. I mean, if they're homeless, that means they don't have furniture. Right. So we furnish this. This is a furnished property. We actually bought the furniture. If you're homeless, that assumes you don't have any credit, so you can't pay the deposit at the Santee Cooper for the electric. You can't pay a deposit for Ori Telephone, so there are pay telephones in that facility. They probably don't have a washer and dryer, so we have a big, large laundromat. A lot of thinking went into this facility. Also, security. We have very tight security, video surveillance and card readers, so you can't get in unless you're already authorized to get in. You can't go from one floor to the other floor unless you've got a card reader that'll take you there. Because we're trying to have a secure environment where people can get back on their feet.
Right, right. David, this is almost immediately adjacent to Swansgate.
Across the street.
Another property y'all have. Of course, this is very close to the police station. I mean, it's close to a lot of great aspects. Of course, close to fire stations. Right there at Futrell Park and very close to the beach. And close to churches and other area folks that they've been communicating with for a long time.
I will say this. The city of Myrtle Beach has been instrumental in getting this property built. They originally conceived of the concept of it. We've worked together with them on all the properties we've done in the city of Myrtle Beach. As I say, Grand Strand Housing, which is a nonprofit that was formed by the city, is our partner in every Horry County property. And a guy named Cliff Rudd, who's a community development director, actually conceived of this idea. And it's been about 4 years in the making to put it together and to get all the necessary funding together. Because this is difficult housing to build.
Where's Cliff Rudd, David?
Cliff's with the city of Myrtle Beach.
Oh, he's here.
He's a community development director.
Right, right. You know, there's so many great housing programs and not-for-profit groups within different states. In North and South Carolina, there's lots of groups that really interface well and enable those transitions. Were there things that you did specifically to make sure that you didn't get into a low-income housing rut or that old mindset of projects? I mean, there are things that you specifically laid out to make sure you never fell into those holes. You said you still own a piece of this or own all of it.
These are all limited partnerships. The way this works is investors buy these credits that are given out in order to promote affordable housing. They are the limited partner. They have no say-so in the operation of the property. They don't want to be involved in it.
Right.
So they want one person to be involved in it, or an entity, as a general partner. And I'm the general partner of the first one we ever built in 1978, and the general partner of Alliance Inn, which is the one that's opening up now. But that gives the investor a feeling of security. He knows somebody's going to be there watching it. Somebody's financially responsible. I have to guarantee the completion. I have to guarantee there's no overruns. I guarantee there'll be, no negative cash flows. I guarantee the tax credits. So there's a lot of responsibility associated with it. But the investors, once they've seen you perform, and they come back, and it gets a little easier, quite frankly, as you go along. Because people know what you're doing, and you've been around a while. They know you're not going to lie, cheat, or steal, and they'll get a quality product. And the product looks good. And it's nice. It doesn't look like anything you would associate with affordable housing. It's as nice as anything built conventionally.
How would a viewer find out about, I know we talked about, of course, that 803 number for viewers learning more about affordable housing, but, of course, finding out about projects. Let's say Morris Manor, the one in Aynor. How would a viewer, if they were interested in the PD or southeastern North Carolina, move into Horry County and they wanted to possibly start in Aynor, how would they learn more about it?
We would appreciate it if they would call my office. The phone number is 843-358-1052.
Okay.
There are 22 units there. 11 are occupied currently. A couple more are pre-leased. And we hope that we'll have it leased up shortly. And it's you won't find a nicer place to live at a more reasonable rate.
And
it's just pretty.
You said $350.
$350.
That's incredible. So these are all individual apartments within that former schoolhouse.
That's correct. Half the units you can walk in from the outside. The other half of the units are actually controlled security access. You have to punch in an access code to get inside. So depending on what kind of security level you want to see, we've got it available for you. As I say, these are 12-foot high ceilings, hardwood floors are still there. It's got a lot of attractive ambiance to it.
David, you all have a website, I think DouglasCoInc.com, I saw.
That's correct.
They had some great info on there, and part of it lays out so many of these developments. You've been naming quite a few large developments, like up in Manassas and other parts of Virginia, 3,000 or 4,000 units spread out over a multi-state area. How does David Douglas, the general partner, maintain involvement? What do you do? I mean, how do you maintain?
I've got a great staff. I've got great people.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing. When I moved down to Horry County 7 years ago, I thought I was going to retire and came down with one other employee. We now have 12 employees. Just built a brand new office in Aner. And I don't know, the Lord has blessed me. It's just, it's growing and growing. But the people that we're associated with are delighted to have good employment. They very much like the mission of our company, which is to produce safe, decent, affordable housing. We think that we're on a mission, and everybody looks at it that way. So I have a lot of good support, very good support, great staff. Couldn't do it without it.
And that idea, housing for the homeless, David, a great transition for all of y'all to wrap in. When you talk about you getting a lump in your throat, that's something not only the 12 folks, all the folks putting it together, building a location like that, get excited about. I wonder if there are other housing for the homeless projects around the country. Now, obviously, we know this is the first in South Carolina, but ones where you all have that common bond of really wanting to expand that.
It's an interesting thing. We have been asked now by a number of different entities or agencies or states that say, well, how did you do this? Show us exactly how does the financing package work? What amenities did you put in? How did the design take place?
Right.
And we are expecting this will be duplicated. It's too good not to be. And the demand is across the board. I mean, the business of taking homeless people and putting them back into society successfully is a wonderful undertaking. And these people are broken, bleeding people, and to put them back on their feet is fun to see. And as I say, I get paid to do this, so I've got the best of all jobs. It's wonderful. I'm very happy with it. I'm blessed.
You think back 32 years ago, David, finishing up college, business degree, thinking about going to business school or doing something else, obviously coming home, your father passes away, recognizing, it's a good time to move in and help carry the ball, which he would have been doing. Do you think back on that often, or you think back about where you were even then and how things changed dramatically, and you've moved into an amazing role of really making a difference in folks' lives?
Well, I tell people that it was fortunate circumstances. I would like to tell you that I designed this course of action, but it wasn't that way. I explained earlier about the interest rates and the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, good luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I'll tell my children that. If you prepare yourself when the opportunity arrives, then hopefully you'll be able to see it and take advantage of it. And I don't know if it's the Lord's work or whether I'm just lucky. I tell you I'm blessed because I can take my knowledge, and I was a real estate broker, I was an insurance broker, I have a residential home builder's license, a general contractor's license, and used to do all those. Used to be kind of a jack of all trades and master of nothing. And it's coalesced into production of affordable housing, which takes all those sciences and puts them together. Again, I've got great people. We've segmented it. I have marketing people, I have finance people, I have construction people, operation people, that each have a sector of this business that they need to deal with.
Right.
And are doing it successfully. And the properties are good looking, they're occupied, we're getting paid. It's life is good.
David, I know obviously a big exciting thing for you a few years ago being recognized as the March of Dimes Realtor of the Year. I think there was a big component there, the real estate breakfast, and I know you're chairing that committee this year, honoring Danny Isaac,
and Billy Alford.
Very exciting.
A&I Fire Restoration are our real estate celebrants this year. We'll have that function in December.
Right.
at the Crown Reef and raised some money for the March of Dimes, which is a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
And again, I'm delighted to be associated with that. I appreciate Danny and Billy doing it this year.
Yes, very definitely. Lastly, Dave, when you think about inspirations, you obviously mentioned your amazing wife and y'all's moving down and your 3 kids. Surely the housing for the homeless must be a huge inspiration for you, thinking on a regular basis.
Well, it'll be here long after I'm gone. It'll help hundreds, if not thousands, of people. It's a nice legacy. It'll be a good thing for a long time to come. So it's an interesting job. I'm doing good by doing well, or doing well by doing good, or however that platitude works. But I'm telling you, it put a lump in you. You watch a lady moving in that starts weeping because she's never been in a facility this nice, and have her kids with her, and you can't help but be touched by that.
David, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it, as always.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with David Douglas coming up next. I'm trying to say both numbers, but the one number is simple, 843-358-1052, if you want to learn about affordable housing. Try that number, 843-358-1052. If you want to learn about a phrase you've probably never heard before, housing for the homeless. Sounds like a misnomer. Housing for the homeless. It's for real. It's for real. The Alliance Inn in Myrtle Beach is just opened. It had a waiting list out the wazoo, and folks are lining up because housing for the homeless is real. It's first time in South Carolina. It's going on. It's going to continue happening. You can call 843-358-1052 to learn more.